What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I believe the last video you guys saw was us going to the junkyard and scoring some Honda Accord heater control units. Now, it was kind of unintentional to grab as many as I did. I was there for one, but I left with 8. 8 was a pretty penny in the pocket, but I think after modifying these and selling them, I should make my money back, no problems. So in today's video, we're gonna work with the interior a little bit more on the giveaway CRX. I believe the last thing we did in the interior was we flocked the dashboard, a few miscellaneous pieces here and there, and we installed it back into the car. Now, you probably see the center console is here now. I've been kind of trimming that off camera, and I do have one of the seats also installed as well. Towards the end of the video, we'll talk more about the seat and how I went about mounting Del Sol rails into the CRX. But today, we're going to be working on the heater control unit and what all needs to be done to get the Accord in the CRX. Right here on my little bench, I've been working off camera. This is a bone stock Honda Accord unmodified heater control unit. You can see all the tabs are there, right? And I've been working off camera to figure out how I was going to go about doing this without buying a kit from EKP to fit this into the CRX assembly. So right here we have a modified Honda Accord one. It's obviously secured into place, nice and firm, pretty sturdy. And we also have the CRX mixer installed as well, fully functioning. So now that I've done this first one, I know what all I need to do to explain this to you guys, hopefully as easy as it seems, and we're just gonna get right to it. So let me grab all my tools, run you guys through all of that, and let's get to modding. This right here is Leo's control unit that broke when I took his dashboard out of CC, and I glued it back together, but I don't have all the pieces because it's so brittle that once it broke, it literally just like shattered. So I wouldn't even recommend using this anymore, only because it probably take only a couple of vibrations before everything breaks, and I'd rather not deal with that. So that's just going to sit there. This one is the broken CRX unit out of the giveaway car, and you can see somebody tried to repair it before, and it has this like little tie wire holding this little sleeve into place, but you can see completely destroyed and literally just falling apart. So we're going to, you know what, I'm just going to end its miseries now. Anyways, we're going to be using out of this unit here the CRX mixer. Pretty easy to disconnect. 2 screws, one on top, one on bottom. Take your knob out. The mixture comes out like so. We're going to be using the cable as well, obviously. So this is, you can keep it as a souvenir or trash it. We're going to be using this, put it off to the side real quick, but all the tools and pieces that we're going to use today to modify the Accord to fit the CRX compartment is pretty simple. This right here is to cut the plastic. I'm using literally a Sawzall blade just handled up right here so I can, you know, chop, and I'm using this over a Dremel because I need to cut this precisely and get as much of this this tab off as possible as a whole, rather than just lobbing it off, because we're going to be reusing that. We have a razor blade for cleanup, like clean up on the edges. We have a Phillips screwdriver for obviously all of the Phillips screws right here, and we're actually going to be using these as well too, so we have to keep them on standby. I have super glue here. This is to glue the plastic in place where I need it to sit. The reason for the super glue is because the epoxy takes a little while for it to dry up, so the piece doesn't move off its, you know, location wherever you set it to, right? But the super glue will dry quickly. It'll hold the plastic in place, and then once it is where you need it to be, then we use epoxy on top to literally bond the whole entire thing together. So epoxy, super glue, plastic cutter, Phillips, razor blade, Honda Accord control unit, CRX mixer. That's what we're going to be using for this modification. I'm going to set you guys up on the table. I'm literally just going to talk about what we're doing, do the job, and move on to the next one. I'm not going to show you guys all the little things. Literally, if you're doing this while watching the video, you guys will understand what I'm talking about if you're holding it in your hand at that moment. So let's get to it. Honda Accord, 9093 Honda Accord climate control. I believe the same year, different model has a manual lever setup instead of the electronic buttons and stuff. So be sure you are getting this one. 9093 Honda Accord, wagon, sedan, coupes. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the CRX mixer into the Honda Accord body. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the unit that controls the fan speed, and that is only held on by 2 Phillips screw. Take the knob off, and this comes right out. It just makes it easier for the modification because it's not in the way as bulky as it was sitting right here. We're gonna remove the little light bulb sitting right here, right? Pull it out of the way. Go ahead and just take this plug out of the way as well. The surface of the CRX mixer is pretty flat, and obviously where it needs to go has all these tabs. It won't sit flush. So we're gonna cut all of these off. Now you can use a Dremel for this part because we're just literally cutting it off and making it flat. I'm just gonna use my little homemade saw. One tab, 2 tab, 3 tab, little bitty 4 tab. Take some sandpaper, clean up this entire surface, make sure it's nice and flat, like so. So the CRX mixer now can sit flush on the Accord body, right? You can see how flush that is. Now, a lot of the write-ups, it says to epoxy this onto the Accord body, right? But I'm doing this a little bit different, and I'm gonna be using screws. So what I'm gonna do here now is I'm gonna take the CRX knob and attach it to the mixer right here, right? This is going to somewhat center the mixer shaft. This guy right here, it's going to somewhat center it in that hole with this in place, right? Nice and snug. And what I'm going to do now is, you can see the tab for the mixer right here. It's very important that your mixer has this tab because it's meant for a screw right there and it's meant for a screw right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it as best as I can parallel from the CRX mixer to the Accord body, right? Parallel, right? So it's going to be somewhere right there. Knob still spins nice and freely. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to take a pick, this right here, and with the tab on the top for the screw hole, I'm going to mark the center of that hole on the Accord body, kind of like a center punch, so I know where to drill for the next step. I have a little dot, you can't see it, but I have a little dot right there, right? I'm gonna take a self-tapping screw to use the end here to cut into the plastic. That little scribe that I put right there, that's where we're gonna be making this hole. Now with the self-tapping screw, I'm not going all the way through the plastic. I'm just starting the hole for the screw that we're going to be using, and let the screw that we're using make the rest of the threads all the way down. This is just a starter, okay? So now I'm going to back it out, and you can use one of the little gold screws right here because it's nice and short, or you can take one of the regular black screws which you can find throughout the Honda chassis, and you can shorten it. So what I did here was I shortened it about, I don't know, 3 millimeters. And the reason for that is because you don't want it to protrude through the other side, which it won't anyways because this is nice and thick, but just to be safe. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the mixer back on here, get the knob back in the front, and I'm gonna screw in that top tab into the hole that we just made. Very gently, because you don't want to strip that hole out, otherwise you're going to have to step to a next size up screw. So here, nice and snug, right? And then now you can see the mixer is attached to the Accord heater control, right? But we're not done yet. So now that this is in place, I'm going to go ahead and align it back up again, right? And we're going to modify the tab on the other side. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but this tab has a little gusset right in the middle, right there. We're gonna need to cut that off. And the reason for that is because this screw hole actually lines up in the gap. You can see the gap. There's no screws that's gonna secure in that gap. So we're gonna step over to the side of this hole to use the other end of the tab and make a new hole so we can put a screw into the body of the Accord unit. That's where I used the razor blade. I literally just cut off that little plastic gusset. Gusset is now gone, and now we have room to put a screw on the other side of the hole. Now I'm gonna use a drill with the self-tapping screw to make a new hole on that tab down low, right here, into the body of the Accord. Very slow. I'm gonna use one of the short gold screw because I haven't cut the black one yet, so just for mock-up purposes, I'm gonna use the gold screw to screw the bottom tab into the Accord body. Nice and snug, don't over tighten it because you can strip the plastic. And now we have the CRX mixer fully attached to the Accord body. Now everything's still functioning like it should. You can see my little plastic right here is kind of like bouncing all over the place. Not supposed to be like that, but regardless, we have this secured into place. So now that we have this out of the way, I'm going to remove it for the next step. Now I want to simply say, if you want this to be permanently on here and ensure that it's not going to pop off in the future, whatever the case may be, take a sandpaper, sand this whole entire front section here. We've already sanded that, and you can epoxy these two surfaces and then put the screw on. The epoxy is going to be extra adhesion to ensure that this doesn't pop off with the help of the two screws holding it down. That's entirely optional. So the next step here is to modify the tabs to fit the Honda CRX. So this is the CRX control unit, and you can see the tabs are on the side, 2 on the driver's side, 1 on the passenger, and the Accord is top and bottom, not on the side. The good thing is these are almost identical as far as the size goes, right? But obviously this won't bolt into the CRX because there's no tabs on the ends. So again, if you're using the EKP kit, you can just lob these suckers off and call it a day, and then use their kits to make the tab. Now EKP doesn't have it on their website. I'm sure he can still sell it to you if you hit him up directly on like Instagram or something. I don't know his Instagram, but my case today, we're not going to be using any type of kit to modify this to fit the CRX. We're literally going to reuse these tabs from the Honda Accord and make them work for a CRX configuration. Because we're doing that, I'm not using the Dremel to cut off. I'm using my little, Sawzall blade, and I'm literally just going to saw this off nice and clean and as intact as possible. So I'm just going to get right to it and cut these off. Now feel free to sand all this down if you want it to be nice and clean. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna sand it off. Now if you want this to sit flush in the center console, you have to cut off this little lip. You can see this little lip on the edge. It's on both sides. You can use a Dremel here or a razor blade, your choice. I'm just gonna make it quick and use my flap disc. So I'm gonna come back in just a moment with these suckers cut off. Ta-da! Ta-da! Yes, sir. I'm gonna take a sandpaper and sand the sides of the unit because we need the super glue and the epoxy to grab and bond to. I'm gonna sand the whole entire thing just so it's nice and uniform. Now, what you got to do is you have to make sure it's even on both sides, the tab to the plastic body, same amount of gap, making sure that one side is not pushed over than the other. And you also got to take note, if you have the stock CRX unit, you have to take note of the gap between the bottom bezel. So I'm gonna put the CRX one in here real quick, and on the bottom here I measured it. This little gap is an 1/8 inch. It's really small, but take note of this before adding on your tabs. So I already kind of did this, so I kind of know where it sits. I'm going to go ahead and just make my marks. So I'm taking a little pick and I am scribing on the plastic, the center of this hole right here on the Accord unit, so I know where the holes are lining up at. So I'm going to go ahead and just scribe it in there a little bit. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but I got one scribe mark right there, and I have a second one right there. So here's where we're gonna need the super glue. The super glue with plastic dries up really quickly. So what I'm gonna do here is the 290 tabs that we shortened down, we're gonna be using it on the driver's side. So what I'm doing here is I am lightly gluing the mating surface of the tab a little bit, and what the scribe on the body does is lines me up with the hole here. So I'm gluing this all the way up to the edge, lining up the center of the hole to that scribe mark. Now the hole is bigger than the screw diameter, so it can be off a little bit. It will still land in that hole. So what we're doing here is we're lining up this tab super flat to the face of the control unit, so that way it places this super flat on the bracket here. So that is glued on, and I'm gonna do the second one now. Same thing, line up the holes up to the edge. So this is what I'm referring to. If you don't shave the tabs down to the edge, you can see a little bit of lip still in there from the tabs that we glued on. Now that's okay if you didn't shave it all the way down. You can always just ream the hole a little bit wider, closer to the Accord body, so that way when you put the screw in, it doesn't go in crooked through there, right? So that's the two tabs we just glued on, and we're not going to epoxy it yet until we finish the other side and make sure that this is going to secure itself in the cage evenly, and then we'll epoxy these tabs on. This one's a little bit trickier because it's such a weird shape, but we're going to trim it down. So let me show you guys how to do that. It's simple enough. You can just take your Dremel and just cut off the edges here to make this a 90 tab instead of this weird 120 or whatever. I'm just going to use my wire cutters, cut that leg off, cut the other leg off. We're also going to shave this bottom tab all the way up until it comes close to that hole, to ensure that this hole is going to be close to the body of the Accord heater control unit. So that wasn't supposed to happen. We're just going to go ahead and eyeball this gap to make sure it is somewhat the same. Now the body is big enough that once the center console itself goes on, it's literally going to block all the gaps. Don't worry about it too much, but try your best to get it as even as possible. I'm going to scribe it one more time here. Make sure I got my mark. So the tab here, I shaved it down already, and I'm going to go ahead and just add some glue. Line it up to that scribe mark, edge to edge. Now this one is also an oval, so plus or minus should be Gucci taters. Nice and flat. I'm gonna test it real quick before the glue sets. Yeah, we're just about there. Okay. Maybe I just gotta ream the hole a little bit, but that's not a big deal. We're good. I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning of what you're gonna need to do this modification. You're gonna need these little screw tabs. You can get these tabs from anything that uses this small black screw in the interior, like right here for an example. The little tab that goes here, the little tab that goes there, a little tab that goes there. You're gonna need 3 of these. 1, 2, 3. So these are what I'm going to use to glue to the back of these tabs, so that way the screw can catch onto something to secure this in the cage. You can see it right here on the previous control unit that I modified. It's all glued epoxy into place. It's not going anywhere, and that's going to give it the threads you need to secure this into the CRX center console. What you need to do with this is you need to cut off one edge to bring the hole closer to the body of the control unit. So I'm going to cut that, use a razor blade to clean it up, right? And then we're going to glue it into the tab like so. We want to make sure that both of these holes line up before gluing it in place. And then obviously we're going to be test fitting all of this before we do the final part of epoxying everything to secure the tab. So I'm going to go ahead and just glue this. What you can do as well is put a screw in here to hold it down while it glues, so that way you can move on to the other side. So that's going to hold it there until the glue dries. I'm going to go ahead and do the other two. So we got the unit installed slightly. It is angled a little bit up here. Not a big deal. You can always round out the holes right there and bring it down, but everything is looking really good. Now we're going to epoxy all of the tabs and let that cure before we put it in the car. You can use plastic epoxy, sets in 15 minutes. This one is 10, but I'm gonna use universal for like all material. This is clear and it's not gonna be super noticeable like the 10. I'm gonna go ahead and just mix it up here on this cardboard. You wanna use plastic so you don't pick up the cardboard, but I cannot find any plastic, so we're gonna apply on all of the edges, inside and out, as well as the white tab for the screw to ensure it doesn't spin over time. Just gonna dab it up really good here. So we have the tabs all epoxied up, including the white tab, and we're just gonna let this set for a day or so. Lucky for me, I already did one the other day, so we're going to be installing this right here. I am going to have to remove this mixer because I'm going to be using the one that originally came out of the car right there. So now before we get into the car, I did forget to mention that if you're going to be using the CRX knob, it'll just go right on like so. The difference is the knob is a little bit smaller on the inside, so you're going to see this gap here. If this bothers you, the white background, you're going to have to be creative and come up with something to block that out. Now, you could simply just spray it black so you don't really see it, or you can switch over to the Honda Accord knob right here. It'll go on, but the difference is with the Accord knob, it's not a full circle on the back. It has a little slash right there, and you're gonna have to modify that shaft to fit the Accord knob. So you're gonna have to like set this right here all the way. So right now it's all the way cold, right? And then this little line right here, you wanna aim it on cold, but also take note of where that slash is at. Right now this is on cold, and it looks like that slash lines up with this mark. You're gonna have to use your Dremel to make a slash right there on that shaft to point to cold where it's currently sitting at. This way it allows you to use the Accord knob and hide all of the white in the background. So I think that's what I'm gonna do actually. I'm not gonna use the CRX knob, I'm gonna use the Accord one, and I'm just going to modify that real quick. Now, the wiring diagram is literally on the write-up, which I'll link in the description below, but I didn't want to cut the harness and do like a hard wire to the CRX harness. I want to keep the original CRX climate control plugs in place, so I needed the female side. I called around trying to see if I can find those plugs, but nobody seems to has them as of right now. I'm sure EKP will still make it if you hit them up directly. Now what I did was, since my CRX unit is pretty busted, I took it all apart. And the reason why I did that is because I robbed it for its plug. Now I only have 2 of the 3 plug because the third one is not actually like a plug like this. It's integrated into the whole entire body, and these terminals are not like these ends like this one. It's literally a whole freaking circuit board inside here. So I'm gonna have to figure out something with this plug to convert over, but I do have 2 of them, so that's good. We can make this work with the Accord. It's already in the car, but we can adapt this to the Accord harness and make 2 of the 3 plug and play, and then we'll figure something out with the third one. So right now I'm just gonna go ahead and figure out all of the wiring, because it was a little confusing. The CRX has 21 wires while the Accord had 19. So I'm gonna sort it all out. You guys go through the description, look at the diagram, and figure out the wiring yourself. If you guys don't want to deal with the wiring, you can always hit up EKP and see if he can make you a plug and play harness. But I'm gonna wire all this up, make sure everything worked good and dandy, and then we'll get to the install of the unit in the CRX. I only have 2 of the 3 plugs, so the third one is literally just terminals that I'm gonna plug in color for color. I do have the climate control in place, all screwed up, and it looks good. I don't have any of the screws on here right now, so it's kind of like gapped up because it's slipping down. For the most part, it's pretty even. All the buttons seems to work like they should and not rubbing up against the console. So right now I'm just gonna plug it up and see if all the functions or any of the functions work. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but the cables right here are ran through the top hole right here. It used to run straight back right here, but because of the position where the mixer is sitting at, the cable actually points up there. Running through the top is not a big issue because we still have length right here to go where they need to go, and I'm not hooked up with that just yet because obviously we're not running coolant to even know if this is working or not. But I'm almost certain as long as the mixer is working accordingly, it should turn hot cold like it normally is supposed to. So everything's plugged up, so I'm gonna go ahead and just turn the key on. I do have the main relay taken out so the fuel and stuff won't prime. Key on. Okay, we got light, that's good. Okay, we got that light. Got my alarm clock. 1's not working. 2's working. 3's working. 4's definitely working. We don't have a 5-speed in the EF, so that doesn't really do anything, but we're going to stick it on 4. We won't know if this works until it's hooked up. We have this now. Okay, this one should turn on the bottom, which it kind of is. I can feel the air coming out of it. Do bottom only. Okay, that just turned off. That turned on. I think it takes a little while for it to open up. So now this one works, that works, this one still works, and that one just shut off. Okay, well, that works. Okay, cool. The Honda Accord climate control modification is done. I'm gonna button up all the center console stuff when I have everything back into place. I need to put the bezel here back on. I don't think I'm gonna run the stereo. I need to wire up the stereo harness, which is right there. And we have to modify the center console a little bit more to clear shifter before all that goes back in. But regardless, this video is purposely for this, and you guys see it's working. And I just got to hook up the cables, but you guys should be able to see all that when you're removing yours on how to put it back together. Before we close out this video, I went to the PO box and this thing was there. On the box it says DRAGON-SPEC, and DRAGON-SPEC is Honda Street Garage. I've been seeing what Mark has posted on his Instagram and what DRAGON-SPEC is, so I'm actually pretty excited to see what's inside because the DRAGON-SPEC stuff is pretty cool. Pretty sick box. DRAGON-SPEC. Yeah, DRAGON-SPEC. I can say that 1,000 more times. DRAGON-SPEC. DRAGON-SPEC. I'm gonna open this box that says DRAGON-SPEC. inside this DRAGON-SPEC box is bubble wrap. DRAGON-SPEC bubble wrap. This is a DRAGON-SPEC paper that says, hey, please check out and enjoy my new product merch brand. Yes, DRAGON-SPEC is Honda Street Garage's new product merch brand. DRAGON-SPEC. Let me say that one more time. DRAGON-SPEC. That part was for me. We are also doing a giveaway to launch DRAGON-SPEC. So there are multiple winners for this giveaway, and I'm gonna read you guys the list right now. They're gonna pick up to 5 winners. First place is gonna get a set of 15x8 raised gram lights 57 DRs or $1,500 cash. Second place winner is going to get a Wireworks engine harness or $700 cash. Third place is going to get a JDI Ghost Lock. If you guys haven't seen a JDI Ghost Lock, it's pretty cool. It helps secure your car a lot more than just your typical like security system, or you can get $350 cash. Fourth place is going to get a Momo Monte Carlo steering wheel, or again $250 cash. Fifth place, you pretty much get your money back. So this is pretty awesome. The easiest way for you guys to get into the giveaway is to go on to dragonspec.com and you can purchase yourself a UV 400 polarized sunglasses in either black or clear, a DRAGON-SPEC key tag, and 2 DRAGON-SPEC sticker. That'll include you 1 entry to the giveaway. The second way is to buy the DRAGON-SPEC shift knob UV 400 polarized sunglasses in either black or clear, a DRAGON-SPEC key tag, and 2 DRAGON-SPEC sticker. So this one is pretty much the first one, but with a shift knob. The DRAGON-SPEC shift knob is pretty cool. That will include 2 entries to the giveaway. So be sure to go check out dragonspec.com in the link down in the description below. Thank you so much, and keep doing what you're doing. Mark from Honda Street Garage. Polarized glasses. I'm not much of a glasses guy, but how Mark is rocking them, I think it'll look good on me too. Boy, look at this DRAGON-SPEC freaking glasses bag. Silky. Wait a minute. Not 1, but 2 DRAGON-SPEC glasses. That's freaking awesome. Yo, I feel like Honda Street Garage, dude. I'm loving it. Definitely gonna be great to have when I go out to the car shows and the car meet, especially out in the sun. Lake Elsinore IBOC meet, which is called the Honda meet, is coming up here in May 22nd or 23rd. Catch me at Lake Elsinore, California, guys. But DRAGON-SPEC glasses, pretty awesome, pretty light. Feels good on my head, because a lot of glasses I've ever wore before, or sunglasses, has always like pinched my face. And I'm pretty sure this is the same. But the other thing here is a shift knob, and I've always wanted one of these shift knobs from Honda Street Garage or DRAGON-SPEC, but just never really want to fork up the money for it. I'm sorry, I had to say that. I'm sorry, Mark. But thank you, Mark, though, because he hooked it up with a DRAGON-SPEC shift knob. You see my hand? I'm sure it's gonna feel freaking awesome. It has a little weight to it for sure. I don't know what the gram is for this, but it does have a little weight to it, so I like that. I really do. We got a DRAGON-SPEC key tag, jet tag, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna slap this on one of my other key tag, because I don't have one, just so it can be a little heavier and easier to find if I lose my key. We have some pretty cool DRAGON-SPEC sticker. It feels really nice. Not entirely sure what material this is, but definitely gonna stick this up on my sticker wall whenever I make a new one. So Mark, big thank you. If you guys want to enter to be one of the 5 winners for the DRAGON-SPEC giveaway, be sure to check the link in the description below. That is going to wrap it up for today's video. If you find this video useful to put your Honda Accord climate control in your CRX, be sure to leave this video a thumbs up. And if you guys want to stick around for more updates on the giveaway CRX itself, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.